in the locker room.
There's never been a team at Maryland, at LSU, and the Chicago Sky where she didn't have some sort of locker room problem with her teammates. People don't enjoy playing with her. Maurice, I do think this has a chance to be different because of her competition with Caitlin Clark. She's being offered, I wouldn't call it a layup, but she's being offered a chance to play on a team that's a championship caliber team.
What if the biggest WNBA storyline was never really about competition, but about what was unfolding behind the scenes around Angel Reese? Insiders are now connecting the dots, revealing a timeline filled with locker room tension, sudden exits, and a brewing rivalry with Caitlin Clark that may have influenced far more than anyone expected. The deeper you dig, the harder it is to look away.
A cancerous tumor. A cancerous tumor. Yeah, you know what the Chicago Sky decided to do? Cut said tumor out of their organization and ship it, put it on a cargo ship, and send it down to Atlanta. She's your problem now. For a ham sandwich and a bag of Pringles. I guess it's a can of Pringles.
The moment multiple WNBA analysts stopped being polite and started telling the truth, the entire narrative around Angel Reese shifted, from a misunderstood superstar to something far more complex, and far more uncomfortable for fans who had been defending her without ever questioning what might be happening behind closed doors.
We got our first trade of the season. Let's go. Angel Reese is being traded to the Atlanta Dream after 2 seasons in Chicago. Who do you think won the trade?
I mean, the only thing with Chicago swapping picks is next year's draft, aren't they eligible to be swapped their pick too?
With these trades, sometimes face value of trades, you're like, of course, this team won. But then you got to figure out who the picks are. So I feel like evaluating a trade actually is later down the line. Obviously, I think Atlanta wanted another big. They're sticking with playing the 2 bigs. They're going to put Angel Reese with Brianna Jones, who you love. You love playing against Brianna Jones.
I love Bree Jones.
Because for 2 years, the public conversation around the WNBA has been carefully curated, filtered through highlight reels, social media confidence, and just enough controversy to keep eyes locked in, without ever forcing a deeper question into the spotlight. How can a player like Angel Reese be this talented, this visible, and still carry a pattern of locker room tension that seems to follow her like a shadow that won't fade?
She can get a WNBA championship before Caitlin Clark. That's really going to enhance her brand, give her some standing around the league. And I think that opportunity may, for a short term, bring out the best in Angel Reese.
I think Angel Reese, listen clear. You better take full advantage of this opportunity with the Atlanta Dream. Okay, you are playing with Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray. They are all stars, 20-point per game scores. All you have to do is be the role player that you were born to be.
And then all at once, the floodgates opened. Analysts began connecting dots that had been hiding in plain sight. And once those connections were made, the picture that emerged wasn't flattering, wasn't subtle, and definitely wasn't something you could brush off as coincidence, bad luck, or media spin. Because no matter the team, the coach, or the environment, the same pattern kept resurfacing again and again.
Angel Reese's teammates come out anonymously and have a few things to say on her departure. Some of these quotes are brutal. It says, "There has been so much apprehension between the team and her. Everyone is happy. They don't have to deal with her various controversies, whether she brings on herself or otherwise. There is no love lost. And when Angel returns for a game with her new team, she will be the enemy, but everyone with the Sky is very happy she is gone."
That's usually where the excuses run out. One situation goes bad, you can point to chemistry, coaching, or timing. But when 3 completely different situations start telling the exact same story, it stops looking like circumstances and starts looking like a pattern that follows the player. And that's where things take a turn. Because the conversation didn't stay limited to locker room tension or personality clashes. It went deeper, into on-court decisions, priorities in key moments, and most notably the ongoing rivalry with Caitlin Clark. Not the kind of rivalry built purely on competition, but something more layered. The kind that shows up when the game is already decided, when the scoreboard has told the story, yet one player remains locked in on something else entirely. According to analysts, There were stretches during her time with the Chicago Sky where blowouts should have shifted the focus to development or simply closing out the game. Instead, attention seemed to drift towards securing double-doubles, making sure the stat sheet stayed impressive, even when the result no longer did. And when that becomes part of the pattern, it raises a different kind of question. Not just about performance, but about priorities and what a player might really be trying to prove.
We have had the curtain peeled back on Angel Reese and how the Chicago Sky felt about her. And my goodness, wow. Her teammates were not having her anymore. They were done with her. The Chicago Sky were done with her. It's unbelievable. Yahoo Sports, Chicago Sky officially parted ways with Angel Reese, shipping the star forward to the Atlanta Dream in exchange first-round draft picks in 2027, 2028.
And on its own, that might not sound like a crime in professional sports. Stat padding has existed for as long as the game itself. But context is what made this narrative explosive. The suggestion wasn't just about numbers, it was about why those numbers mattered. According to analysts, it wasn't only personal pride or incentives. It was about keeping pace with Caitlin Clark, about preserving the image of a rivalry that, on the court, was starting to look increasingly one-sided. That's when teammates began to notice. Because nothing disrupts a locker room faster than the sense that one player is operating on a completely different agenda, chasing something individual while the rest of the team is focused on winning. And once that disconnect sets in, it doesn't stay behind closed doors. It spills onto the court, affecting rhythm, trust, and ultimately results. Then came the exits. When players start distancing themselves, requesting trades or making it clear they no longer want to be part of the same environment, that's usually the loudest signal that something deeper is off. Marina Mabrey became one of those signals. Because her situation didn't feel like a routine basketball move, it felt like stepping away from what some were beginning to describe as a growing circus. And here's where the story shifts again. Instead of things stabilizing in year 2, the tension didn't fade. It reportedly escalated.
A good look for Angel Reese. She's still in her rookie season. Not a rookie season. She's still on a rookie contract. And and they don't want anything to do with her. She's a cancer when it comes to the locker room. Angel Reese is all about Angel Reese. All right. Hashtag Angel Reese drama. All right. The drama follows her, and it's that star mentality. She thinks that she's a star. She was the number 7 pick, could have easily been the number 8 pick in the 2024 draft. And this is good news for Camila Cardoso.
The team's decision to experiment with Angel Reese in a point-forward role raised eyebrows across the league, not just from fans, but from analysts who questioned how a player with limited perimeter shooting and developing playmaking experience was suddenly being placed at the center of the offense. To some observers, it looked less like a clear long-term strategy and more like an adjustment made under pressure, an attempt to force-fit a system around talent that didn't naturally align with the role. And in basketball, when something doesn't fit, it rarely breaks quietly. It tends to show itself in rhythm, in decision-making, and eventually in chemistry that becomes harder to hide inside the locker room. That's when the concerns around conduct and internal frustration began to surface in public discussion. And by the time those conversations reach the outside world, analysts often argue the real strain has already been building behind the scenes for much longer than anyone realizes. Then came the moment that shifted the tone even further. During a stretch of the season for the Chicago Sky, Reese was reportedly sidelined due to a back issue. On its own, that wouldn't have been unusual in a physical league. But what complicated the narrative were later observations and circulating reports that fueled perception debates, particularly around timing and visibility. Some critics pointed to instances where her public presence during recovery appeared inconsistent with the expectation of a player fully unavailable, while supporters pushed back hard, arguing that recovery timelines and personal life outside competition don't always align neatly with public assumptions. And in professional sports, perception moves fast, often faster than facts. Once a storyline takes shape, it can begin to define reality in the eyes of fans, even while the full context remains far more complicated than what appears on the surface.
Man, oh man, this Yahoo Sports article on this whole Angel Reese debacle is insane. It is insane. apparently the teammates wanted nothing to do with her going forward. And to be honest, I already said that. You know, it was a lot of like anonymous sources in this, which kind of be pushing me away. But being that I've been following this, I know there's certain things in here that it was obvious to see Ariel Atkins, regardless if they moved on from her too or not. She didn't want nothing to do with her.
And once that perception takes hold, it spreads quickly. It reached a point where analysts started asking a question that sounded almost absurd at first, but became harder to dismiss the more it was examined. How does a player in the WNBA achieve early individual recognition, generate so much attention, and still find themselves being moved on from before their third season without a formal trade demand? That is not typically how organizations operate. Front offices around the league are known to tolerate strong personalities if the production clearly outweighs the friction. Winning teams especially tend to prioritize impact over inconvenience. So when a franchise like the Chicago Sky makes a move that signals a shift, particularly for what some analysts describe as relatively modest return, it inevitably triggers interpretation beyond just roster construction. It becomes a statement, whether intended or not. And in that same ecosystem, players like Ryan Howard and Alisha Gray are often referenced as examples of roles being clearly defined within a system. Players who understand structure, fit within it, and help stabilize team identity rather than disrupt it. Which brings the conversation back to Angel Reese. Because the implication from analysts isn't necessarily about ability. Talent has never been in question. The rebounding, the physical presence, the energy, those elements are widely acknowledged.
Angel Reese, I don't know who you pissed off to have this kind of an article about you here. Hold up, let's pull it up. Let's pull this up. All right, look at the title. This is coming from Yahoo Sports. They were getting sick of her. Sky teammates reportedly celebrate Angel Reese's departure. Celebrate? They were celebrating that you left? Oh no, you gotta be a cancer to the locker room. Now, we already knew in 2024, you were just trying to outdo Caitlin Clark. All you cared about was your double-doubles. Let's keep it all the way real. You would be the only starter out there with like a minute left calling for the ball. Thank the Lord deliberately put an end to that foolishness.
The real question now is whether she can operate within a structure where she is not the center of everything, where success is measured first by team results, not individual stat lines. In the WNBA, history tends to split players in that exact situation into two paths. Some adjust. They embrace complementary roles, refine their game, and ultimately become key pieces on winning teams at the highest level. Others struggle with the transition, finding it difficult to step out of a primary spotlight role, and eventually run into friction when systems demand something different from what they're used to. The difference between those outcomes often isn't raw talent or even effort. It's awareness, understanding how to fit into a structure rather than reshape it entirely. And for Angel Reese, there's an added layer that constantly follows the conversation, the comparison to Caitlin Clark. It's a backdrop that intensifies every narrative, every adjustment, and every stretch of inconsistency or growth. At its core, the challenge is deceptively simple but actually very difficult. Winning in a role that isn't built around proving a point. If a team like the Chicago Sky finds stability, if results improve and the structure holds, the conversation naturally quiets. The narrative shifts toward basketball, toward progress, toward fit. But if the same patterns reappear, if tensions resurface, if chemistry issues return, if teammates respond the way they reportedly have before, then the story stops being about isolated moments. And it starts to harden into something much more permanent.
Comes to like the Sky looking like they're about to sign Skylar Diggins. There is a headache that's involved with it, and you have to weigh up. And there's a headache that's involved with all of these, whether it's playing with the Fever, whether it's playing with the Sky, whether it's playing with the Wings. There's a headache involved in all of it, and the question is are you okay with the headache? Because if things are going badly, it's the worst place in the world to be. If things are going well, it's the best place in the world to be. And things, since about 15 games into a rookie season, things surrounding Angel Reese have been a disaster.
And perhaps the most intriguing part is that the spotlight isn't going anywhere, especially with Caitlin Clark continuing to draw massive attention across the WNBA. Every matchup, every comparison, every stat line will continue to be dissected, amplified, and debated in real time. Which means the narrative is no longer something that waits to be written, it's something that evolves game by game. and that leaves very little room for ambiguity in how the next chapter is interpreted. For Angel Reese, the discussion around her future is essentially split into two paths. Either the next situation becomes the environment where everything finally aligns, where talent, role, and system come together and the storyline shifts toward contribution and consistency, or it reinforces the concerns and narratives that analysts have been debating, turning speculation into something far more firmly defined by outcomes. Either way, the next stage won't be quiet. And that was always the reality. Because what's unfolding now is still very real in terms of expectations, especially if Reese approaches this phase with a different mindset than in previous situations. The key difference is that her new environment with the Atlanta Dream already has a more established identity built around spacing, perimeter creation, and players who can operate within a structured offensive system without needing it rebuilt around them. That makes the path forward both clearer and more demanding at the same time. Clearer because the role doesn't require reinvention. More demanding because there's far less tolerance for anything that disrupts cohesion or slows the system down. In that sense, success isn't about becoming someone new. It's about fitting seamlessly into what already exists and letting the system elevate the strengths that are already there.